So tonight, for us to recognize and celebrate Black History Month and our residents who have contributed significantly to our history, we are going to recognize Miss Carrie Owens. And I have passed out to all the board members a copy of a 2012 article from the New Citizens Press, which is produced by Rena Risper, and I'm going to make a few comments about Miss Owens. Carrie, would you like to come up to the podium? So on behalf of Meridian Township, we want to recognize you, Ms. Carrie Owens, for your contributions to our community. So education is something that's really important to Meridian Township residents. And we are one of the most highly educated places in the state. According to our last citizen survey, over 95% of our residents very positively rated our public school system. And earlier surveys showed that over half of our township residents actually moved here because of our public school system's reputation and quality. So knowing how important education is to our residents makes it very fitting for us, Meridian Township, to recognize you for your contributions to education during Black History Month. Any residents who have visited the Township Municipal Building, Meridian Mall, the library, Horizon Bank may have seen our 175th anniversary display with different panels on it, and Miss Owens is featured on one of the panels because she was the first Black teacher in Okemos Public Schools. I'm going to read an excerpt from an article from the New Citizens Press written by Nadine Defensor and contributed by Rena Risper. Carrie Owens is one of those exceptional educators who work tirelessly on a lifelong effort to help improve the lives of her students, even when she faced certain hardships herself. Carrie was born, educated, and taught in Florida during a time of segregated schools while the South was facing racial struggles and tensions. Miss Owens' unique and innovative teaching methods rose out of inadequate equipment and textbooks. Miss Owens was the first Black teacher hired into the Okemos School District in 1964. When interviewing for a teaching position at Cornell Elementary School, she emphasized that she wanted to work individually with her students since all students learn at different levels. Keeping her promise, she worked independently with each student, allowing them to reach their highest potential in basic educational skills at their own individual pace. The success of her teaching methods caused her principal to assign her to teach a transition classroom, which placed 15 students in her class ranging in age from 7 to 10 years old who had experienced limited success in school. With her tireless dedications, she made sure that each of her students progressed to grade level and successfully accomplished reaching their grade reading level. Parents became interested in her philosophy of teaching, and many moved to Okemos so their children could be in her class. This caught the attention of the Ingham Intermediate School District, who praised her teaching style as being more effective than special education classrooms. And in 1969, they hired her as a teacher consultant, where she was able to teach teachers how they could adapt, change, and modify the curriculum to each individual student's level. In addition, she became a part-time adjunct professor at Michigan State University in elementary and special education departments, while simultaneously obtaining her K-12 certification in special ed. And in 1984, after being retired for a year from ISD and MSU, she taught a number of special education, elementary and secondary education, psychology leadership courses at Oakland University in Rochester before finally retiring in 2001. So Ms. Owens, you helped create the high standards of education that Meridian Township residents have really come to respect and appreciate, and we're so fortunate that you chose to move to our community and educate our children, and with your innovative style. So we thank you very much for that. We have a little gift for you, but I know you wanna, if you wanna have a few words to say, please do.
Thank you very much, Julie. And good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Well, thank you. I need that feedback from you warm, loving human beings. And thank you so much for inviting me to talk about Black History Month. Of course, you know, I am learning about my own history because it was not in the textbooks. We had absolutely no access to any education of our own culture and our own progress and all the things that we had done. And so I really think it should be Black history all year round, because the slaves, my foreparents, and even though they say slavery was over, they had overseers. It was still slavery. And many of the inventions that you enjoy, that all of us enjoy, came from the slaves. But it was unlawful for slaves to have patents. And so the overseers and the slave masters took the inventions for themselves. And so it makes me very happy to know that now at least we have a month, but we should have the whole year. And thank God for my background with my parents who did not have an opportunity to have an education, but they wanted us to have more than they had. And they always said, regardless of how much we were segregated against, we couldn't go to public parks, public libraries, public anything. But they said, you have to love everybody if you want to be saved. And of course, we had to believe in God, because what else was there when you're discriminated against everything? And so we had that. And so regardless of what happened to us, we always had to believe in God, and we had to love regardless. And therefore, I am so happy to have come to Okemos. My advisor, when I started getting my master's in 1962, I was telling him that I was teaching under the same conditions in Florida that I went to school under. So he says, well, why didn't you get a job up here? Well, I had applied to Lansing, and they had just started hiring Negro teachers in 1961. And their quota was 2 a year. So they had their quota for that year. And so my advisor said, I know Okemos is a Lily White school district, and he told me how it became Lily White, because when the Negroes started moving into Lansing, they took the white flight and all moved out to Okemos. And they did not want any integration, so they wanted to remain segregated. But the taxes got too high, so they had to let industry come in. And so that's how I became in Okemos. But I've had many wonderful experiences. I've touched many lives, and many lives have touched mine. And I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. And one little thing that I used to go around to the schools, the classrooms, and teach kids, because you know, kids are taught to hate. They're not born to hate. And so I used to do a little story with the man in the corner with the balloons.
Carrie, you gotta stay near the microphone.
Okay, yeah. Bring those over, Sue. yeah, so the microphones, yeah. And I used to tell the story to the students. I won't tell you the whole story, but I just give you the demonstration. It was a man on the corner. The little black boy came from the South with his parents to get a new job. And so a man on the corner was blowing up the balloons. And so the little black boy watched him, because when he came up north, the white kids didn't want to play with him. And so he saw the man blowing up the balloons. So the man blew up the red balloon, and the red balloon went sailing up into the air, okay, and the little black boy watched, okay. Then the man blew up a yellow balloon. It went sailing up into the air, and the black boy watched. He watched those balloons fill up. And then the man blew the white balloon, and it went sailing up into the air. And so the little black boy, he thought, well, what would happen if you blow up a black balloon? He says, well, let's put it to the test and see. You know, would he go sailing like the other ones? And so he let the black balloon go up. And he was so happy. It went up like the others, you know? And so the man said, little boy, let me tell you something. It's not what outside. It's what inside that counts. And we all have the same thing inside. If we strip our skin away, we'll all be the inside. We'll all be the same inside. Therefore, you have to love. You have to love each other. That's what we're supposed to do. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with you.
Carrie, thank you also for your service as an election inspector for years and years. She actually has worked tirelessly for many, many elections in helping elections occur without her type of efforts too.
Yeah, I also want to mention that, Carrie was a pioneer in Okemos. She's, as was mentioned, their first African-American teacher. I know in some of her writings she's mentioned how she's gone from being a Negro to black, to colored to black, to African-American, and now maybe black again, I don't know. But it tells you how the journey has been long and difficult. But now it just so happens that Okemos has an African-American superintendent. So you started it, and they've come all the way. Also, you mentioned that Okemos was once pretty much the lily white school district. It now has a quarter of its population being minorities, and has a substantial number of that being African Americans. So we appreciate your pioneering efforts and everything you did. I was on the Okemos board for 22 years, and I really appreciate what you did. That district, as you know, is very highly regarded, and you were one of the reasons. Thank you.